While other children were out trick-or-treating, 19-month-old Nima Carter vanished from her crib on Halloween night in 1977. The frantic search began the next morning after Nima's parents couldn't find her anywhere within the home. As temperatures started to rapidly drop in Oklahoma, friends and family feared baby Nima might be trapped outside somewhere and that the incoming cold front might freeze her to death. They were right about Nima being trapped and freezing, but in a way they could never imagine. A few weeks later, Nima's body was found in an abandoned house a few blocks away, where she had been locked in the refrigerator. Though the crime was horrific and shocking, it was all too familiar to investigators. Nima was not the first child this had happened to. 3 children in less than 2 years had been found in the exact same fashion in the same town. As the story unfolds, a chilling common thread emerges. In this episode, we will follow that thread, and you can draw your own conclusions. Lawton, Oklahoma in the 1970s was rapidly urbanizing and expanding, due in part to the town's proximity to Fort Sill and ongoing westward expansion. Like any American town at the time, parents let their children roam the neighborhood and play outside, and felt safe doing so. For most children, it was perfectly safe, but below the surface, something sinister was lurking. When George and Rose Carter awoke the morning after Halloween in 1977, to find their 17-month-old daughter Nima missing from her crib, they quickly grew panicked. Extensive searches went out and returned empty-handed. Then, a few weeks later, a Fort Sill soldier decided to explore an abandoned house on a whim. Inside, he found the body of Nima Carter, who had been locked inside the refrigerator of the abandoned home. Upon arrival at the scene, investigators were met with a wave of déjà vu. The previous year, Tina and Mary Carpitcher had also vanished, then been found locked in a fridge inside an abandoned house. Tina miraculously survived, but Mary tragically did not. The parallels were unmistakable. Though an arrest was eventually made in connection to Mary Carpitcher's death, Nima's case remains open. According to many, the same person is responsible for both cases, a local teen by the name of Jackie Roubideaux. George and Rose Carter were the proud parents of a 19-month-old daughter, Nima Louise Carter. Nima was a playful and curious baby, and she was the light of her parents' lives. On Halloween night in 1977, George and Rose had put Nima to bed in her crib. Shortly after, they heard her crying from her room. Like many parents in the 70s, they were following the self-soothing method of sleep training, opting to allow the baby to cry it out rather than rushing to comfort them. Eventually, Nima stopped crying. The next morning, Rose went to retrieve Nima from her crib, only to find it empty. She asked George if he'd seen her, and he said he hadn't. They didn't panic. After all, Nima loved to hide and pop her head out with giggles, even hiding in kitchen cabinets on previous occasions. As Rose and George searched the house calling Nima's name, their worry grew. Nima didn't pop up with a smile. They searched high and low, but there was no sign of their daughter anywhere. The front door was locked, and the windows were too. There was no indication of forced entry, no broken glass, no prints in the yard, and no sign of Nima. Rose and George called the police, who initially thought they might be involved in their daughter's mysterious vanishing. The Carters complied with every request, offered investigators everything they could, and even volunteered to take a polygraph. It wasn't long before police concluded Rose and George had nothing to do with whatever had happened to Nima. George did tell the officers that back in April, the family home had been robbed. photos of Nima were stolen, which were later found scattered behind the shed outside. Then, only 2 months prior to Nima's disappearance, the Carters' home was vandalized, and their dog was poisoned. George felt strongly that these events were connected with Nima's disappearance, but the police were not convinced. Still, George maintained that whoever took Nima must have been inside the home before, even theorizing that her abductor must have been hiding in Nima's closet when they put her to bed. As temperatures dropped, fear for Nima's safety only grew. The Carters placed an ad offering a reward of $1,000 for any information that would help them bring their daughter home safely. Finally, on November 23rd, almost a month after Nima vanished, the case broke. A Fort Sill soldier who was visiting a friend a few blocks from the Carter home decided to venture into a nearby abandoned house. The soldier walked into the kitchen, and there he saw a sight that could bring even a seasoned military member to his knees: the badly decomposed body of Nima Carter, lying on the floor next to an open refrigerator. Police arrived quickly, and they determined that the soldier was not the first to find Nima. Actually, a group of kids playing in the abandoned home had opened the fridge and run away in horror, which is how Nima fell from the fridge to the floor. The kids were too terrified to tell anyone what they'd seen. Nima was still wearing the same outfit her parents had put her to bed in on Halloween night. Though the horror of the scene was hard to stomach, alarm bells were going off in the mind of the officers and members of the local community. They had seen this exact scenario before, and it wasn't that long ago. On the afternoon of April 18, 1976, 3-year-old twins Tina and Mary Carpitcher were watching TV in their grandmother's living room. While their grandmother vacuumed, the twins vanished from the home in broad daylight. 3 days later, a group of teens exploring an abandoned house heard a chilling sound. The refrigerator was screaming. Bravely, the teens opened the fridge, and out came Tina Carpitcher. Mary was also locked inside, but unfortunately, she had already died from a lack of oxygen. Tina told her rescuers that she and her sister had been locked inside the fridge for 3 days. She had managed to survive by pressing her nose to the seal of the refrigerator door, barely siphoning enough air to keep herself alive. Tina said the girls were told their aunt would be coming to get them to go and get ice cream. They had thought it was a game, and understandably so. After all, isn't it normal for a babysitter to play games with children? Tina wasted no time in telling the teens, and later the police, that she and Mary had been taken from their grandmother's home and locked in the fridge by their longtime babysitter, 16-year-old Jacqueline Roubideaux. Though Tina was adamant that it was Jackie who locked her and her sister in the fridge, the words of a traumatized 3-year-old were not enough to convince police to make an arrest. Rumors flew, but over time, everyone seemed to move on. 3 years passed, and Tina never changed her story. Finally, in 1979, Jackie Roubideaux was charged with the murder of Mary Carpitcher. The prosecution had been patiently waiting until Tina was old enough to testify to make their case. The initial trial concluded in 1982, but the jury was unable to reach a verdict, and it was ruled a mistrial. The second trial then began, with Jackie now in her mid-20s. In addition to Tina's testimony, jurors heard from fellow inmates of Roubideaux's, who asserted that she had confessed to them in 1981 that she had kidnapped Tina and Mary and locked them in the fridge. According to one of the inmates, Roubideaux was confident and defiant, and she was once heard saying, "Hell yes, I did it and I'll get out of it." Despite the testimonies, Roubideaux repeatedly denied responsibility and proclaimed her innocence. The trial ended in 1985, and this time the jury reached a decision. Jackie Roubideaux was found guilty of first-degree murder, and she was sentenced to life in prison. For Mary Carpitcher, who lost her life tragically young, and for Tina, who was living a nightmare of trauma and missing her twin sister, some sort of justice had at last been delivered. For Nima Carter, justice still hadn't come. Now, 8 years later, Nima's case was still unsolved. In the closing arguments of Roubideaux's murder trial, the district attorney brought forward testimony that called attention to the similarities in the murders of Mary and Nima. Roubideaux had not been charged with Nima Carter's murder, but the district attorney publicly declared what many already believed. Jackie Roubideaux was responsible for the deaths of both girls. Beyond the eerie similarities in the two cases, the distinct MO displayed in each, and the fact that the crimes had occurred during 2 subsequent years in the same town, there was another link connecting Jackie Roubideaux to both cases. Roubideaux had long babysat for the Carpitcher family. After the rumors quieted following Mary's death, Roubideaux began booking babysitting gigs again. The Carters were looking for help with baby Nima, and they were regularly calling on Roubideaux to watch their daughter. In fact, George had asked Roubideaux to babysit Nima on Halloween night in 1977, but Roubideaux claimed she had other plans to go play bingo. Witnesses recall overhearing a conversation with Roubideaux in a local store, in which she seemed upset that George and Rose had hired another babysitter after she told them she couldn't work Halloween night. Though no physical evidence linking Roubideaux to Nima's death has ever been released, the likelihood that she killed Nima is undeniable. Initially, George rejected the idea that Roubideaux killed his daughter, saying he believed someone else was responsible and that Roubideaux wasn't the type to do something like that. Whatever George may have believed about Roubideaux's personality, the facts remain unchanged. Jackie Roubideaux kidnapped Tina and Mary and locked them in a refrigerator in an abandoned house, babysat for both families, had access to baby Nima, and Nima's death mirrored that of Mary Carpitcher almost identically. A chilling coincidence, or proof that Jackie Roubideaux is a ritualistic serial offender and more of a monster than anyone could have imagined? That much is up to interpretation. 1 town, 3 children, all abducted from home and locked in a refrigerator in an abandoned house. 2 deaths, 2 broken families, and 1 community forever devastated. 1 arrest, 2 trials, and 1 guilty verdict. Most of all, 1 babysitter, a teenager trusted by parents to look after their children, who certainly committed at least 1 heinous act against innocent twin girls. Did Jackie Roubideaux also kill Nima Carter, or was this Oklahoma town plagued by 2 baby-killing, fridge-obsessed monsters? Nima's case is still open, and any hope of solving it likely died in 2005 when Jackie Roubideaux passed in prison from cancer-related complications. The tragic cases of Tina and Mary Carpitcher and Nima Carter serve as haunting reminders of just how much evil can lurk in the places you'd least expect it. Though the answers we want may never come, the story of Jackie Roubideaux and the refrigerator murders will remain in infamy as yet another tale from the underworld.
If you enjoyed this true crime story, don't forget to like and subscribe and let us know what you think in the comments. Want to watch another chilling tale from the underworld? Check out these other videos on screen.